And good morning. It is Monday, January the 19th of 2026. It is Martin Luther King Day, and we're very glad you could spend part of it with us here on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. The time is 8:06. I'm going to be totally honest because we like transparency around here. We're actually pre-recording our first couple of segments here this morning because on Saturday, making a visit here to Wausau, and really appreciative of that, is one of the candidates for the governorship of Wisconsin, Kelda Royce. And thank you again for stopping by our studios and being able to talk to us.
I'm so happy to be with you, Chad.
State Senator for the 26th district, if I'm not mistaken.
Very good.
Hey, so many of them, you got to figure it out right. But one thing that I when I was researching you a little bit, get ready to talk to you, I did not know you were actually born in central Wisconsin.
That's right. I was born in Marshfield at the hospital, but we lived in rural Taylor County outside of Medford. Grew up in a one-room schoolhouse with my parents and my little sister and our pet goat, Penelope. And we would drive into Wausau and go to church at the Unitarian Universalist congregation here. And so I have a lot of very fond memories here.
Fantastic. And one of the things that we're trying to do here early in the campaign, because it's such a long campaign. I mean, the primary.
You're telling me.
I can imagine. It's not until the summer, August
11th.
To learn a little bit about each of the candidates. What formed your political philosophy? Was there a time in your life that you sort of, because one of the interesting things is, I think we change. I think as we grow up, we sometimes see certain figures that grab a hold of us, and then later there's others. And I think there's a lot of change as we go through our lives. In terms of yours, was there a point in your life where your political philosophy sort of focused? Was there maybe events that went on, or maybe political leaders that you came across that kind of formed your thinking?
Well, I'm from a family that was always felt like being involved in politics is one way that you can be a good citizen. My mom is a social worker, and my dad has spent his career in law enforcement, and they're both from elsewhere in the country, but they settled here in north central Wisconsin because they knew it was a place that they could give their kids a good life. Because we have wonderful public schools here in Wisconsin, and they thought they would have a very high quality of life. And indeed we did. And so service was always a part of our family. And there's, one of my earliest memories is of running around in the yard. And I was a toddler, so I think I was naked. And I was carrying a Dave Obey sign and singing a little Dave Obey song that I had, made up in my head. So, which I will not sing to you now.
I mean,
unless somebody wants to send me a contribution, then I will.
Fantastic. Dave Obey. It's always, man, it's not been that long, but it has been that long because
well, I'm 46 years old. So,
and I'm a little older than that. And growing up around here and being around Dave Obey all those years.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, I mean, you've done this before. You've thrown your hat in the ring for the gubernatorial race. Why is this time, the right time for you?
Well, I have the most experience of any candidate in the race. This is a time when we need our most courageous and our most capable leaders, both to stand up to the threats that we face from the Trump administration, threats to our farmers, our small businesses, our families, and our economy. But it's also a time of incredible opportunity here in Wisconsin because for the first time in a generation, we could actually flip the legislature. So we need a governor who is really capable of making the most of that opportunity and pushing through some long needed changes in our state laws. We can't afford to waste it on a Governor Tom Tiffany for sure, or on a Democrat who just, doesn't know deeply about state policy, the state budget, or needs to wait for a poll before they decide what the right thing to do is.
One of the questions that I'm asking folks that I never thought I would ask as a topic of a potential issue for a gubernatorial candidate in the state of Wisconsin is we have a federal government that is currently led by an administration that regularly threatens leaders,
Right.
governors or other leaders within a state, threatening them now. We're seeing military. We've seen plenty of threats about withholding federal funding unless you do things that they agree with.
Mm-hmm.
What positions you well to be able to handle that kind of threat? And how would you handle this kind of threat? Because at times it is not easy because lives, number one, are in danger. Number two, those federal dollars are vitally important in trying to do
Mm-hmm.
the things that we want to be done here in the state of Wisconsin. How would you handle the threat, and why are you the best person to handle that threat?
I have spent my entire career standing up to bullies and billionaires just like Donald Trump and Elon Musk. I think that's vital. We cannot have a governor who is afraid or will cower when it comes to Trump. We need to use every single tool at our disposal to stand up and protect Wisconsinites, protect our pocketbooks, our economy, and of course, our lives and our laws from this regime and their actions.
I think there's some frustration for some people about the way that we call it the opposition party
Mm-hmm.
is handling themselves in terms of how strongly the pushback is. And some
Yes.
it feels
I
like.
hear that and I feel it too.
Well, let me ask you then about that, because I think there is a threat, especially I think within the National Democratic Party, that's, well, we don't want to say or do anything that's going to hurt our popularity because we feel like Trump's popularity is bringing down the popularity of Republicans up and down the ticket. So we're not going to do anything or say anything. And yet we're 10 months away from this election and a year away from folks maybe going into office, whether at the federal level or the state level. You said it, opportunity here in Wisconsin. But that's not enough for a lot of people.
No.
What do you think the Democratic Party and leadership within the party, including yourself and other candidates for governor and other Democrats here in the state of Wisconsin, should be doing and talking about over the next 10 months before this election?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot that can happen in those 10 months.
Well, I think people want a fighter who also knows how to get things done. And that's what I hear from people in every corner of the state, in red areas like Clark County, where I was this morning, and in blue areas like suburban Milwaukee, where I was last night. People want somebody who will stand up and fight for us and tell the truth about what Trump and his allies are doing to our country, but also someone who can really deliver results for Wisconsin. And I think that combination is really important. And it proved to be a winning combination in New Jersey and in Virginia, where they just elected new Democratic governors that have very similar profiles to me. Middle-aged moms who know how to get stuff done, have a lot of experience in government, but also in the private sector, and are not afraid to stand up to Donald Trump, but are really laser focused on affordability and how we can make lives better for the people we represent.
Again, we're talking to State Senator Kelda Royce, one of the 9 candidates for the governorship on the Democratic side. There's 3 more on the Republican side. They're officially in there right now. And we are getting an opportunity to try to introduce you to all these candidates very early in the process here on 98.9 WXCO. Let me ask you, you talked about getting things done. Mm-hmm. As you look at, you've had different roles in your career.
Yes, I have,
been
Chad.
as a lawyer and been as a politician and in a number of different areas. What is maybe the best example of you getting something done for the people that you've served, whether in the private sector or the public sector?
Well, there's a lot. There's a lot. Of 25 years in and around state government and in the private sector. I'll give you one that's very recent. So for years, I've worked to expand access to healthcare by allowing nurse practitioners who to basically see patients and practice to the full extent of their knowledge and training. Wisconsin has been behind the times in not updating our laws and regulations. And this is really important in a state like Wisconsin, where there's a healthcare provider shortage, particularly affecting rural areas, but also urban areas as well. And for years, I was the only Democrat championing that bill alongside Republicans. Mm-hmm. And our Democratic governor, whom I like and who I worked very hard to elect and reelect, vetoed my bill several times. Mm-hmm. But finally, this past year, just a couple of months ago, 2025, we were able to get this bill passed into law. And I think it's really important, if you want to be an effective governor of a purple state like Wisconsin, number one, you have to be willing to listen to people who are different from you. You have to be able to sit down with them, work out. You have to be able to extend a hand across the table and take some political risk. And I have shown myself to be able to do that again and again and again. I have passed laws, not just when Democrats were in control, not just when we had split power with the legislature, but even when Republicans have been in control. And that is an essential skill.
Speaking of healthcare and talking about rural areas, and I'm sure you know that we've seen hospital closures over in the western part of the state.
Chippewa Falls, yeah.
And it means that for some rural folks, you have to go a couple of hours to get health care, to have a baby. It's been talked about, and I think it's been known. What are you going to do? And I'm trying to ask people that because I think that for rural folks, the idea in the year 2026 that it takes hours to get health care. I mean, it blows the mind here in the richest country in the history of the world.
Right. I mean, my mom had to drive, almost an hour to have me, right? And that was 46 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's gotten worse. It's gotten much worse.
So what are your plans in terms of trying to change that, where we get health care closer to the people, especially in the rural areas?
Well, I think expanding access to nurse practitioners is going to help. But, there's also home health, right? There is childcare. There's a lot of areas where we need a lot more capacity and we don't have it. We're also facing a huge crisis because as a result of Donald Trump and the Republican budget, we're about to see 270,000 Wisconsinites lose access to health insurance. So this is an urgent problem. I'm a single payer person. I believe healthcare should be a right. It shouldn't be rationed based on your job or your wealth or where you live. But how do we get there from here? We've focused for a long time, Democrats have, on expanding Medicaid. And while I'm a strong supporter of expanding Badger Care, the federal budget has taken that off the table. That cannot be our answer. It is not feasible right now with this federal government. My plan is different. It opens up the state health insurance plan that I and other state employees enjoy, high quality, low cost, nonprofit health care to anybody to buy in. So you as an individual, Chad, or your family, or a small business, or even a large company could buy into the state health insurance plan voluntarily and enjoy the high quality care, the lower costs, and the security that comes with that. And to know that healthcare is not tied to your job, that really increases your own economic freedom, right? You could retire earlier, you could take a different job, or take the risk to start a small business, as I had the incredible opportunity to do 13 years ago. That's the kind of economic freedom that we could have if we enacted my healthcare plan. And by the way, it will help keep rural hospitals open because people will have insurance.
Another topic that here in central Wisconsin that is, I think, an interesting topic because I can actually see the thoughts of many people in this topic. And there's been solar and wind projects here in Marathon County, and they're replace some farmland, and there's some pushback on that. I see the need for the green energy, but I also understand the folks that may be concerned in that realm. What is your policy when it comes to maybe wind and solar, but then at the same time when you do get pushback from some of the landowners as well, because that can be very difficult, and then some of the visuals are obviously bad as well because you don't want to be pushing people off their land as well. It's sort of a broader question maybe in terms of your green policies, but also in terms of listening to people, landowners here in central Wisconsin as well.
Yeah, well, listen, everybody wants to have a voice in their community, right? And that makes sense. And one of the big problems we've had with Republican dominance over the last 30 years in the state is the loss of local control. So I do think it's important for local people to have a role in saying we want to preserve the rural character of this beautiful area that we have. That's one of the best things about Wisconsin, right? It's a driver for our tourism industry. That said, we do absolutely need to bring more wind and solar and more geothermal online. These are the fastest and cheapest ways to meet our energy needs, and they have to be part of the mix. We want to make sure that those projects are sited appropriately, and that we're all getting the benefit. But we cannot continue to have rising utility costs, especially as AI data centers come in and try to steamroll local communities, silence folks, and make these backroom deals that actually hurt ratepayers. We just can't have that. So wind and solar need to be a big part of the solution. But I think it really is about where they go and making sure that communities have a say. And we also have to make sure that farmers who don't maybe see another way to make ends meet, who are really struggling with this economy, especially with the tariffs and the way that Trump's policies have harmed farmers in rural communities, that they don't feel like they have no other choice than to do, photovoltaics.
Mm-hmm. You touch on AI, and I was going to ask you about this, but it's something that really concerns me personally, and I think it concerns a lot of people because it's pretty amazing the amount of change we've seen just in the last couple of years. I mean, it's coming so very quickly, and when you talk about changing economies,
Yeah.
and that can be a big factor in it. What's your overall take? Should you become the governor? Because I do think there is a role for the state, despite maybe what's been happening in Washington, where they're trying to take away maybe a little bit of the control as well. But people's lives are going to be changed in such a significant way if it's just left for its own devices.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on what the government's role is, and maybe a governor's role would be in terms of AI in the near future?
Well, I have a unique perspective on this, Chad, because I'm an entrepreneur. My small business is a tech forward business, and we use technology to make it easier and more affordable for people to buy and sell homes. So I think that there's incredible possibilities and opportunities with technology. I'd love to use it to modernize state government, to make it easier for people to get services. I think it could be transformative for folks in rural areas. But I'm also a skeptic. I'm a parent. I've got 3 young kids at home and 2 young adult stepdaughters, and I've seen how the influence of tech, particularly big tech, right, social media companies, has really harmed our kids' sense of self, their mental health, their ability to socialize, and it's harmed our economy. And remember, these are the same companies that have participated in the breaking of our democracy. So the idea that we should just, roll out the red carpet, get down on our knees and say, hey, whatever you want, just take our water, take our land, take our energy production. Outrageous. I think we need really, really strong safeguards. We need transparency. And again, we need that local control to say, we don't want a data center here. We think we want it to be over there, and make sure that, a blanket no is probably not appropriate or possible, right? Because landowners can sell their land, but we absolutely have to make sure that ratepayers are not on the hook for increased energy costs, that it's going to be Wisconsin workers that are well paid, that are going to be doing those jobs, and that we're protecting our land, our water, our air, and the rural characters of our community.
Another issue here that I think it's been happening now for quite a few years now, but it continues because in the changing economy here in central Wisconsin and in rural areas generally, we used to have a major paper mill in Brokaw, which is now doesn't even exist anymore. Brokaw is gone. It's right off the map. Wisconsin Rapids has had similar issues. And it's going to continue. We're going to see maybe job loss in both cities and rural areas. Do you have a plan for, especially rural areas, in terms of trying to change as the economy changes to replace job losses in some of these areas?
Yes. And it relies on a number of things. I mean, obviously, we have to have broadband connectivity. People need to be able to work here. I think that rural communities and small cities have a lot to offer. And we want to make it possible for young families to live there and raise their kids there. So having access to affordable childcare, I'm a universal childcare person, is a big piece of it. I'm also, one of the legislators that has young kids. A lot of them are older and retired, and they just really don't understand what it's like for young families these days.
Right.
Number 2, public education. We've got to have fully funded K-12 public schools in these rural communities. The school is the heart of the community. And when schools close, then communities really suffer. And a big reason that our schools are suffering is because of the voucher program. So I am the only candidate that has put forth a responsible plan to bring this voucher scheme to a responsible end and make sure that those billions of dollars that have been taken out over years actually get invested in public schools where they belong. Number 3, we have to invest in local businesses. One of the initiatives that I've championed is our Main Street Bounce Back grants that help small businesses start and expand by moving them into vacant retail spaces. A lot of towns all across Wisconsin, when you drive around this beautiful state, you see these wonderful old buildings, these, cute little downtown areas, and you see a lot of boarded up and vacant storefronts. This program, for a relatively tiny amount of money, A few $1,000s here, a few $1,000s there helps businesses renovate these spaces, get them back up and going. And that can just transform a whole community. And everywhere I go, I stop into businesses that have benefited from this program that Republicans have so far refused to reauthorize. And I talk to them about how transformative it's been. And I think it's really important that we have local economic development that's driven by small businesses.
Another education. I would a couple, maybe two more questions because there's so many things we can talk about.
I can talk for hours.
I know
Chad.
you can, and the thing about it is one of the nice things here in this long campaign is hopefully we'll be able to have you back a number of times because there's so many different issues that I think are so impactful of everyday life for folks here in central Wisconsin. But here in Wausau, we have a 2-year college campus, and over the last couple of years, we've seen one by one, these 2-year college campuses closing down.
They are under attack by Republicans in the legislature. There's no question about it, Chad.
And I guess just generally overall with the university system, because it's been such a hallmark of our state, the Wisconsin idea. And we are seeing the strangling, I think, in some ways of our universities. Number one, they're being told what to do, and I think it's taken away some educational freedom. But we're also again seeing, and we're here in Wausau, this university is now going to be merging into the building of the technical college, and I think the technical college is wonderful here in this community as well. So I guess I'm kind of throwing a lot out there in terms of about this issue, but especially with the 2-year colleges, because I went there, and it was a wonderful start for my university experience. What's your overall plan in terms of trying to maintain the University of Wisconsin system entirety? Not just the 4-year schools, but the 2-year schools as well, in terms of moving to the future, because it just feels like we're getting contracted at a very rapid pace.
I think you're right. And I fought against this and warned about it, over a decade ago, because I saw this coming. This was the Republicans' plan all along. Over the past 15 years, they've cut $1 billion from the universities of Wisconsin, and they have hamstrung and prevented our 2-year campuses from, going in and recruiting students and from having marketing budgets. And they have, reduced staffing and all the things that help campuses thrive. Now, from my view, not everyone needs to go to college or should go to college. You should be able to thrive and have a good life, whether you do or not. But every single person who wants that opportunity should have it. And for so many kids in Wisconsin who grow up, those 2-year campuses are their path towards post-high school. They don't want to go to the military. They're not that interested in going to a technical college or entering the workforce. The 2-year campuses provide a really, really important pathway for people to go to college. And it should be available. And even if you don't care about kids' opportunities and having good lives, you should care about our economy. And there is no better investment that we can make in our economy than in young people's access to education. I'm talking about early childhood, K-12, and higher ed. It's the biggest economic generator of our state. If we could print money, that's basically what a university does. It helps our state thrive.
Right. And I guess just to piggyback on this, one of the aspects of our state as well is trying to make sure that we have more young people and young families that want to live here.
We've got a demographic challenge.
So how do you see that beyond the educational system? Is there any other ideas in terms of trying to change those demographics in a positive way here in Wisconsin?
Yeah, there's a lot that we can do. I mean, we have to make it possible for young people to build a life here. So that means economic opportunity. It means affordable housing. The fact that so many young people want to buy a house but can't afford it. They just don't even see a world because they've got student loan payments. A lot of people can't afford to have kids even though they'd like to, or maybe they only have one because they can't afford a second because of childcare. So if we can have universal paid family leave, universal access to early childhood education that's affordable for families and that's high quality, and you can make it possible for people to buy a house, then I think Wisconsin becomes a very, very attractive place. But I will say these right-wing policies that are meant to divide us from each other, really backwards things like banning abortion and trying to demonize the LGBTQ community, that sends a message to young people. We don't want you here. And I don't think that's the message that we want to send. Wisconsin is a wonderful place to live, but we could make it better and more welcoming for young people.
And I guess to wrap up our first conversation, we want to kind of give an opening because there's so many other things that we want to talk about. To finish up, Are there any other major priorities you want folks here to know about as you begin your campaign and begin the discussions with the voters over the next number of months?
Well, I really encourage people to go to my website, keldaroys.com,
Mhm.
see my proposals, but more importantly, send me an email, send me a message, let me know your thoughts, ideas, and questions, because I love hearing from folks all over the state. I think this is a really incredible opportunity for our state to have a governor, number one, with courage, both the courage to stand up to the Trump administration, but also the courage of her convictions to actually get stuff done. We need somebody who's going to make the most of this little window of opportunity. We're going to have to make change.
State Senator Kelda Royce. And again, I appreciate you stopping by our studio here on this Saturday, and safe travels as you go around this state. And we look forward to hopefully talking to you again very soon.
Me too, Chad. Thank you.
That is State Senator Kelda Royce. We're going to take a quick break and then come back with more. Chad Holmes Show, 98.9 WXCO. Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate